Alright, and we're back, although I've got to change the capture because I've that one up already. But I clocked that. Yes, it is. Excellent. Yes, we are back into Suzerain. Been a while. I've been ill. I've been really quite ill. My throat is actually still quite sore, so that's why Suzerain has been put on a very back burner because doing the voices is quite throat intensive. But I'm mindful because I do enjoy doing Suzerain, and also it's very quite popular. Very popular indeed. My mindset is I'm going to try and record bulk today for Suzerain, so that we'll have about 2 weeks worth of Suzerain, but with my throat already being sore, we'll see where we end up. Poisoning. Workers' Union. Oh, the radicals. Yeah. Communists. Women. Just anti. Education. Cool. Okay, so there seems to be island. There's trouble with islands. Oh, this isn't the world map. There you go. These guys have got trouble with one. In general. Anyway, back to us. Let's deal with everything internal before we go back soon. Thousands of books that they claim to be spreading communist propaganda. Books on fire. Right then. Book burnings. You know things are going well in your country when you're having book burnings. Young Swords are the nationalists. Free priests. Arrested. British freedom. Oh, of course, because Bergia. Out of place. Lack of hospitals. Fine. And farmers are paying because of recession. Well, we don't really give a shit about farmers. That is our official stance. Fuck the farmers. Why not? Grand National Assembly, Stage Debate, Protection Act. What are we actually doing? We're having a barbecue at home. Saturday afternoon, first break from work in what felt like years. But they couldn't be more perfect. Trying to keep my mind off the upheaval sparked by the Circa assassination, I let the backyard grill. Monica and Deanie were out shopping for craft supplies, and I'd given the staff the day off. Self and Frank at home. I wasn't sure how he felt about me at the moment, but I did know how he felt about barbecue ribs. My cock had left some on the marinated in the fridge. Deep breaths. We're going to read the text. You're never going to manage the fancy voices. Sure enough, as soon as Frank glimpses the grill and the meat, he steps outside to join me. Well, Lucky's finally come out of his room. You should talk, Dad. I never see you at home anymore. I can't remember what voice I did for him, but bratty little shit is what I'm going for. Preoccupied with matters of national importance, you entitled shit. Yes, Mr. President. Whatever you say, Mr. President. Fucking slap. Yeah, children who talk back to their fathers don't get dinner. Fan these flames, will you? Frank sighed and waved the fan lazily, almost causing the fire to die out. You keep out. Yeah, we'll never have dinner if you carry on like that, you shit. I'm trying. Yes, call him weak. Oh, I'm one of your employees now. No, we're not that level of capitalist scumbag. You'll have to go through my secretary first. He's a fucking prick, is this kid? He left and started to make his way to the kitchen. Returned with a tray large enough to hold all the meat and vegetables the fire was still burning weakly. Here, let me try. Grabbed the fan and started quickly waving it over the coals. The fire roared to life. He turned to look at me with a grin on his face as if he was expecting praise. Yeah, not bad. Thank you, sir. Sir. Thank you, sir. It's in our utmost interest to fulfill our duties with precision. The grill should commence in exactly 1 minute and 32 seconds. That was a spot-on impersonation of Lucian. We looked at each other for a second, then burst out laughing. Realised my throat was parched. There was a 6-pack of beer in the kitchen. Go and get us some beers. He looked at me in disbelief. Do you mean I can? But Mum told me. Stopped himself, quickly ran inside and returned with 2 beers, cracked them open, clinked the bottles, gazed out at the city skyline. For a moment, my thoughts flashed back to my childhood and my relationship with my own father. My father was a rich man. We never had to worry about food, clothes, or anything else. Yet he was nearly always away, constantly distracted on the rare occasion when he was at home. We're not recording this in bulk, I can tell you. My throat's already sore. We'll have to find something else to fill the slots. Now that I was the president, I was worried that I would end up just like my father, distant and absent from Frank's life. Dad, can I ask you something? Go on. I feel like there's so much you've been hiding from me. About your past and about what's going on right now. Like at dinner that night after the ball, you told me everything was under control, but it wasn't, was it? I know what happened in the 20s. We learned all about it in school. Now the protests and the riots is going to be the same thing. Dad, is there going to be a civil war in Swordland? No. Good. But what was it like back then? Uncle Peter said the two of you went through a lot. I'm not a kid anymore, you can tell me. Before I could gather my thoughts, familiar images started flashing before my eyes. Pictures of soldiers advancing towards me and my friends, weapons drawn, of people I knew, friends and neighbours being dragged through the streets and murdered in alleyways. Shock and grief on the faces of fathers, mothers, and orphaned children. They were dark times. Seems like it. He asked about a civil war, so let's tell him about the Civil War. Right after I met your mother, we both joined the Students' Council to push for change at the Cooper 27, but over the next year, the state of Swordsland deteriorated. I started picking sides, and I tried to stay away as much as I could. One night it happened, 2 different factions in the army, one of them led by fascist General Lundarin, and the other by Socialist General Arkard, started fighting against each other. It was a bloodbath. Frank shifted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable. People organised protests either for or against Rykard. I heard about the clashes the next day. Many of my friends were shot or arrested. I isolated myself for months. Fairly older than you are now, studying law at the Holsterd University, I was a freshman, excited and young. Just left the classroom to go back as I heard the sound of multiple vehicles approaching the campus gates. As they got closer, I realised they were military, camouflage trucks and tanks, carrying hundreds of soldiers. The same soldiers that were supposed to protect Southern citizens pointed their guns at us. They immediately took control of the facilities. One of my friends asked what was going on and was arrested immediately. More people got angry and gathered in protest. Frank kept listening, a shocked look on his face. Tell him you ran for your life like a coward. Well, alright then. Seeing the crowd gathering, I knew something was going to happen. Something bad. Decided that it was impossible to go against armed men, and ran away from the scene. Ran away from my friends who were getting arrested and shot to save my own dear life like a coward. Still feel my flight was justified. Anyone would do the same. No one could sleep that night because of gunshots and sound of boots. Can't forget the screams to this day. Frank leaned back in his chair, his shoulders slumped heavily. That's enough for today. It's okay. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you about it. I know I don't understand how easy my life is sometimes. One more thing though. I know you managed to not take any sides. Do you mind if I ask why? I don't want to be a part of the violence. That's not actually true. The backstory that I created wasn't an option there. It's what you just waited to see who came out on top, because there's nothing profitable about siding with the losers. Frank raised his eyebrows. Curiosity not satisfied, sensing my reluctance to go on, he simply nodded. Sorry for bombarding you with questions. I know I complain sometimes, but my problems are nothing compared to what you went through. I'm here to listen to them, no matter what they are. Before Frank could say anything else, I heard the front door unlock, Deanie and Monica's voices, and the sound of rustling shopping bags filled the house. Alright, I'll be upstairs until dinner. Frank went in and dashed upstairs. Long sip from my beer, look at Sissy and the now setting sun. Hope that talking to Frank about my past had been the right decision. Part of me felt as if some sort of burden had been lifted. But I had the same nightmares again that night. Alright. It was a lovely moment of father-son bonding. What's happening now? Oh, industrial output. The industrial output numbers 12% lower than last year. Additional support to improve their industrial capacity. 2%, okay. Riots in a prison. Many members of the USP clarify the demands of the government and the party Congress. Constitutional reforms. Without ministry reforms, they won't be able to stand behind the new reform package. Pretty sure we're doing that. A construction project at Atlanta reported the project has been progressing well, and they've already started laying down the foundations to the ground containing will bridge tracks. So our railway's coming along nicely. Before it's in most of the preliminary works. Everything good. Yeah, see, our capitalist friends have not let us down. Okay. Interesting. Jersey and treaty organizers significant. Magnolia looked in Hutton, Copia. Bergen Vargas land. Yeah. Okay, so my capitalist friends are on their side, so we want to back them. Energy partnership. Okay, so they like that. Okay, so the diplomatic mission is currently being led. But I'm not the one doing it. That's fine, as long as I've not missed some. Piss off. Narabel. President visit to Narabel. Okay. Time around, but that's fine. I was travelling to the snow-covered city of Narabel, the August region, for the Rural Development Forum organised by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. Don't actually have that much state money. The mental city of Narabel has gritty tones to it, mostly regarded as one of the poorest cities in Zoidland, as people are hardy and wary. Even after the discovery of natural resources in the area, years of neglect by central government were apparent on the buildings and the general infrastructure. Natural resources, namely gas and oil, were now under the control of Gasom, elevated the corporation to a place of power. The task of this forum was mainly symbolic, fake smiles and handshakes with oil barons, meetings with local politicians, but most importantly of all, making sure Nobel did not feel like it was forgotten by the government. Scenery so far, however, was a reflection of Nobel's neglect. Main roads to the city were not maintained well, there were so many bumps and its coloured spots in the asphalt. Navigating and swerving to avoid the inconveniences, our motorcade finally started nearing the city. As if my discomfort from the bumpy road was apparent to him, Serge rolled down the partition window. We'll be arriving in the West Hotel in a few minutes, sir. Thanks. Any time, it's my duty. For a moment, Serge started to smile under his moustache. Sir, I just wanted to say, it's been a great these last 2 months. As you know, my wife Susan recently gave birth to our son, sir, and now my daughter just started a very good school in Hallstord. That's great news, Serge. I'm happy for you. I appreciate it, sir, truly. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to afford a good private school if she scored less than in the entrance exams. But I shouldn't have made my insecurities get to me. Erica outsmarts me all the time. I'm very proud to have a daughter like her. Yes, I too hope Deanie will grow to be like her mother. I'm sure she will, sir. After all, she is the daughter of a lion and a lioness. My daughter looked up to the First Lady for inspiration. It's not just limited to my daughter, sir. She's an inspiration for almost all women in the country. But at the same time, it must be hard for the First Lady as well. All this attention, adjusted to the new high life, and a husband that has great responsibility. It's hard for both of us. It must be, sir. We sometimes forget the important people in life and all the responsibility and rush. You know, those we care for. Third continued after a moment's silence. Oh, I told you, sir. We named my son George. The doctor said he's very healthy, and thankfully so is my wife. Yes, I hope the hospital had a good service. Normally, we wouldn't have been treated in one of the suburban hospitals. Thanks to the special coverage of the presidential staff, we were transferred to Arundel State Hospital. It's a great hospital. The equipment and the staff were very exceptional. Serge sighed. I've already started thinking about their university education, especially Erica. I want to send her to a good private school. With the current state of the economy, it's going to be hard for us. You're fucking begging for cash. You know what? I can support the education of your children. I feel like, you know, we've got personal wealth, we've invested a lot of money, we're rich, we don't give away money for nothing. But at the same time, he's our driver, he's a useful tool, therefore we want to keep him happy, so that he'll drive us around a lot. Mr. President, there's no way I can... One look from me, Serge cut his short and nodded at me after removing that. Mr. President, I don't know how I can ever repay you for this. Thank you so much. Good education is more valuable than any amount of money. Exactly, sir. You're right. I won't forget your generosity, sir. Good. Best not. I hit a major pothole on a bump which lifted up his seats in a second. Acceptable. We need to invest in infrastructure here. I agree, sir. We still need to drive back tomorrow unless you use one of those new helicopters. I mean, I wouldn't be against the helicopter if it's an option. Motorcade began approaching the hotel. The Hotel West was supposed to be the best hotel in Norwell. The large 25-story main building was undoubtedly one of the taller and more expensive buildings in the city. It towered over the nearby slums and had been a target for protest when it was first built. The crowd was gathered in front of the hotel, with the welcoming committee at its centre. As we approached the red carpet entrance, I could see the mayor of Gorbel and his top aides. Serge got out of the car and opened the door. He bowed his head respectfully and gestured towards the entrance. See you later, Serge. Thank you, sir. Likewise. As I left the vehicle, the fresh air of Norbel filled my lungs. Almost immediately, everybody present in the crowd flocked over to me with an excess display of courtesy, smiles, and handshakes while I donned the mask of a politician. The mask I was very used to. That just cost us one personal wealth. 20 minutes I've been doing this. Feels longer. Sorry, it's my throat is still not right. Armor. Frozen Bill signing deserves applause. Private education is good. Green a threat to growth. Gas arm in turmoil. That's footballs all called off because of protests. Misogyny, labour union rights, Green Bill, democratic elections in Swordsman. How they pitch a lot to the radical. That. I thought we controlled the newspapers. I thought we paid a bloke for that, or took a bribe for that. I think we took a bribe. That's fine. Everything's fine. See that? Oh, well, I mean, terrorism's not fine, but plans for a reform package. See, he's being a slightly more useful, friendly. A lot of demands. Even on the current welfare situation, I'll know about this is going to require a lot of energy for the voices. We might end up with a shorter episode instead of rocking out the 4-hour-long episodes that I thought I was going to do. You might end up with just one shorter episode. But this series will not die. It'll carry on if it kills me. I arrive at the meeting room for my talk with Sierra and Pascal before beginning. I took a moment to appreciate the view from the balcony. The mantis Nobel completely comfortable. While I was mesmerised by the scenery, Pascal Benoit walked up to me. My Minister of Health was, ironically, somewhat portly, having gained a few pounds since his breakthrough as a best-selling writer, but his authority on social affairs could not be questioned. I don't remember him. Free rein to give him a voice that I can do. Such is a spectacular view! General Waldy, the Minister of Education, joined us on the balcony, dressed in sky blue pantsuit. Trousers of dresses made her a subject of past gossip, but didn't seem to bother her in the slightest. Spectacular indeed, but if you do look at the opposite direction, you will see what Saul's decades of neglect did to the city. Most of the people living in Norbel are workers, farmers, and their wives and children. They're breaking their backs for close to no pay, all thanks to the greedy corporations. We can't really blame the companies, that's just how they work. Yes, we can. Some of the companies are doing much better for their workers in United Contana and Arcasia. If you look past the view, you can see the real problems. Real problems like poverty. Pascal nodded gravely. This was a subject he knew quite a bit about himself. His best-known books were about the plight of the swordsman's less fortunate, growing from his own past growing up in squalor. Well put, Mrs. Wilder. I don't need to tell you about my own experiences with poverty. I'm sure you have similar stories, am I right, Mr. President? Yeah, I came from a very, very wealthy background, actually. You barking well up the wrong tree there, my friend. You know the saying, you don't know what you have until they just take it away from you. Is that a fucking threat? Is that a threat, Pascal? Where's my minister of fucking interior? Like, she'd have him in a cell in seconds. I'll not forget this, Pascal. Any chance there is to get a secret police and have you thrown in a cell, I'm doing it. You don't have to be born poor to sympathise with the plight of the impoverished. But you don't have to be... Oh. But you don't have to have been born a woman to recognise Swordsman's need for parity among the sexes. Parity among the sexes shouldn't be our first priority. Look at how many high-ranking female politicians our country has. Appearances can be deceiving, Pascal. Her voice sounded bitter. Think about how Lilias Graf got to her current position. I don't necessarily believe the rumours about her and Saul, but she never could have risen so high if she didn't parrot his calls. Gloria Troy. Is it an accident that the first female assembly speaker is such a staunch conservative? And then there was Alfonso's habit of promoting women to prominent positions to give Swordsman progressive sheen while accomplishing nothing in reality. While women in places like Norbel are denied any opportunity to advance, the government can use a handful of female politicians from wealthy families, myself included, to pretend their only obstacle to success is their own lack of initiative. Meanwhile, those of us who don't use our clout to help powerful men stay in power are degenerated as angry spinsters. I ask you, Mr. President, does anyone care that your strategist, Mr. Gallade, doesn't have a wife? You veered off topic. When Wall asked, I answered. As I was saying, isn't it about time Hallsword addressed this country's real issues, rather than bowing to the wishes of the hawks and fearmongers of the establishment? and diverting yet more resources to the military and law enforcement. Our welfare, healthcare, and education systems have been decaying since the recession. Sutherland's poorer communities are losing hope. Hopelessness and a lack of opportunities can drive people to extreme solutions. We're seeing increased crime, domestic violence, and yes, rising inequality between men and women. Yeah, Lilius will sort it. I told you, Lilius, mate. Fucking Lilius, you threatened me. I don't think I've forgotten. Lilius will be down for you. She is certainly a proven administrator. From what I heard, she reduced crime and robbery by 40% during her mayoral term. I don't think brute force will get us anywhere. Look at where the tight grip of Tarquin Saul got us. There's another subject I want to mention. I've already changed the voice like 4 times for this guy. I've been working on improving the rights of workers in our country, and I've proposed a draft bill that is currently being reviewed by our party. Mr. Craven has already backed me and had given his support. Swords has fallen behind most countries on this subject, and it's my responsibility to ensure that is not the case. Always room for improvement. It's good to hear that you're pushing for it. Appreciate the kind words, Mr. President. I will not let you down. I don't know why I've given him such an upper-class voice, given that he came from poverty. But he's keeping it. It's also a matter of life and death. Every decade we hear of some horrific accident due to employers' disregard for their workers' safety. So would you back the bill when it arrives on your desk, Mr. President? Yeah, sure. Why not? Sod it. I'd be very interested in supporting it once it's finished. Unless my rich capitalist friends tell me I shouldn't be supporting it, in which case, you're fucked, mate. I'm relieved to hear this. Mild. Getting a little bold out here. Let's sit inside and continue our discussions. We headed back inside. The meeting room was already prepared for state business. All gifts for each of us had been placed on the table by a municipality. We took our seats. Start with your health overview, Pascal. As you wish, Mr. President. Thornton has a free healthcare system except for a few private hospitals operated under it. Most of the populace receives adequate treatment. Health issues primarily appear in rural areas due to the lack of quality services. I'm doing my best to ensure that citizens of all ages receive the best healthcare they can. I also personally want to solve the high infant and maternal mortality problem. The life expectancy and mortality rate. Our life expectancy is 65 years, and the infant mortality rate is a worrying 85 per 1,000 births, while our maternal mortality is at 90 per 1,000. That doesn't sound too bad, to be honest. Be assured that we are doing everything we can to save the mothers and their newborns. Those numbers are saddening indeed. We are working very hard on improving the quality of our services. Yeah, how many doctors and nurses then? This is a high number. Oh, so I actually have to read it. I can't just skip past that. Well, I could. It's my stream video thing. We have 31,000 doctors and 73,000 nurses working for the Ministry of Health. This is a high number. What I think is, I don't want to be rude, but out of those numbers, how many are in the urban and rural areas? Not interrupt one another. That's not a problem. The number of doctors per 10,000 citizens is far lower in rural areas compared to the urban area. Treatment time is still too high due to the low number of doctors in rural areas, which gets barely any proper coverage. How many hospital beds? There are 10,000 beds per... There are 10 beds per 10,000 citizens, which is a very good number according to our comparison with other neighbours. I mean... That doesn't seem... I mean, I don't know enough about healthcare, but... What if pandemic? I mean, 10 beds for 10,000... Good luck, I guess. We see a lower number in the countries of Magnolia, Whelan, but obviously can't match Lesbia or Valgasland. Magnolia and Whelan are hardly countries to take as a standard, but it is good to know we aren't in a huge health crisis. Yet. Thank you, Pascal. Your in-depth briefing is much appreciated. Tell me about the education system. With pleasure. Forest education is free, but we have a very outdated system that I want to reform. The other important issue is the lack of access to education in rural areas, especially for young girls. Your administration has the power to solve both problems. My highest priority is to get enough funding to be able to build schools in rural areas while I cleanse our education of its nationalistic indoctrination and sexist teachings. I mean, we've only got one government budget, so until we see some returns from some of our projects, we'll have to see. How many students and teachers do we have? Currently, there are about 5 million students, 3 million in primary education, 1 million in secondary, and 1 million in tertiary. There are 155,000 teachers. Portland is full of young and bright minds. Yes, we should keep striving to make education available for all. I think there needs to be a change in the way of thought. We should help children to question and educate themselves. What's our literacy rate? The literacy rate of Swordsland is 80%. This is a very good indicator for future growth, but it needs to increase. It is also far lower among girls than boys. If I remember correctly, the most illiterate areas are Bergia and Angerland. That is correct, although Lockhaven skews the statistics for the Nargis region. It also has a vast number of illiterate children. It underlines my point about the lack of access to education. Alright, tell me about the difference between urban and rural. Urban areas have 3 times the number of schools per 10,000 people compared to rural areas. Rural areas also suffer from a lack of teachers. Russian teachers not preferring desolate areas for work. Salaries for teachers are very low here. We need to increase their pay to give them more incentive. Thank you. I believe that's everything. She stood up and moved towards the window. She took a deep breath. What is it? Look at this impoverished city. The street full of potholes, the hospital's barely functioning, the school half open. Not just about Sol or even Alfonso's failings. This decay of Swordland's forgotten regions has been going on for many decades. Just structural corruption, which is fueled by capitalism. Oh, me and you are not going to get on. We're all about the capitalism. Pascal, what do you think? Sir, there is not much to be said. I agree with Kira, but it is also Gus Manga's job to improve these areas. It's the responsibility of each and every one of us. Kira sat back down inside. One way or another, we need to transform. Greed and unchecked capitalism will not magically provide for the people. You filthy communist. My plans require an increase in the governmental budget. I aim to solve the problem we highlighted with the allocated money. By building schools in these less fortunate rural areas through fundamental changes to the education system, I will unlock the potential for all our children, boys and girls alike. Yeah, I thought you told me it was equality. Our statistics show the disparity between urban and rural education. I'll try that again. Our statistics show the disparity between urban and rural education. Either do something about it or wait until things get worse. Wouldn't a promotion of private education help create additional funds? Yes, but at what cost? I'm a supporter of the private sector in education because at the end of the day, they are focused on profit first. What are you working towards, Pascal? I personally want to improve the low quality of healthcare in the rural areas. So create a draft plan to increase salaries of doctors and to upgrade the equipment of the hospitals. Do more with an increased budget. Additionally, a privatisation plan to promote private investments in the healthcare system could allocate extra. Yep, quality of healthcare in less fortunate areas matters more. Exactly. It would directly diminish the depressingly high maternal mortality situation. Besides, the push would also have economic benefits. I do hope to create competition and increase the quality of healthcare with privatisation for effort. A private healthcare system would increase the price of treatment and make access worse for the average citizen. Decisions not to promote more state control would cost the people dearly. My expectation from our government is that we understand and focus on the needs of the people. Yeah, we'll reconvene when you'll learn all about capitalism. It was a pleasure. See you at the meeting. I hope to see a change in direction. I think we covered all the necessary subjects. Thank you for your time. I do hope we won't repeat the same mistakes again and again. Have a good day, Mr. President. Ministers left, and I prepared to leave for other official business in the city. The agenda for the next few days was busy, including a meeting with Minister Gus Manga and former President Alfonso at the Gasson branch office. On the way out, the weather was not particularly cold, but it didn't keep a group of USP supporters from coming out to cheer us on in the streets. A look at the citizens' attire, it's easy to understand the current state of Norbel. Some people were wearing clothes a few sizes large. Some kids did not have shoes, yet there was hope in their eyes. They're excited to see their president in the city. That's sweet. I mean, it's going to go very, very badly for them, but it's very sweet. Okay. Young sword member found decapitated. That's what we like to see. Oh. Gazia builds military base in Lesbia. President Walker visits Lesbia. Alvarez. Gazia military base in Lesbia. Following leaders. Large military base to be constructed on Ravnos Island. There. So I think it's... Yeah, the Arcadian Treaty Organization have built a military base there. I think the communists are over here. I don't actually know who the communists are. Are they the... Like, who's the big power behind the communists? Is it these guys? It's just allegiance because Helgen at a summit. Someone calling an organization in the island to address the past steps. Creation. Yes, okay, so this island here, annexed by them, but they want it. It was always theirs. We've got this little... We need peace in this area. Rumberg, again, I imagine has taken some of our shit. Look at the size of Rumberg. The miracle, like, Marcanasis and the barony of whatever. This is a weird map, though. This is a world map. Towards land over there. That would be a fun one to play as. How's life in Nordland? Well, isolated. Anyway, enough messing around. Focus rights building is completion. Fine. We'll learn about that when it becomes relevant. Morbel mine disaster. Coal mine is collapsed in Morbel. You're not so that place any threshold form. Unwanted elements. Appeal of the Energy Protection Act of 1952 fails. Strong, obviously, from factions in PFJ and beyond within the USP, led by the USP and against. I support them. I'm sure I wanted that repealed. Oh. Bell, Communist Party Soil and Labour Unions organise a strike against Gasson. 4 strikes against Gasson. Let's meet with Gasson! Series of intense meetings with Sarah and Pascal led to much needed rest time. Charge. Issued a Peter, labouring tirelessly in the capital, uniting democratic learning reform. Bloody hell. I'll try again. Lucian and Peter were labouring tirelessly in the capital, uniting democratically leaning reformers for the crucial task of drafting a new constitution. Meanwhile, Gus had invited me to visit Gasson in Norbel. Gas reserve, natural gas resource, 4 large fields. He had made its way through. The neighbourhood's state of disrepair. Bumpy, marked by potholes, while the buildings around us appear run down and dilapidated. The community has apparently endured a prolonged period of neglect. Led to a halt at the entrance of the facility, a sizable mural depicting the Gasson logo had been painted on a nearby wall. Next to the mural, a group of individuals wearing blue work vests had assembled, holding what looked like protest signs. Sage skillfully parked the car, bringing our journey to a smooth and elegant conclusion. Gus greeted us warmly as we stepped out from the vehicle. Good day, Mr. President. Welcome to Gaston Nobel's operations. I trust Mr. Wald and Benito didn't overwhelm you with their demands. Yes, good to see you, Gus. I want to talk to you about what we can do to help the development here. Perfect. That's exactly what I hope to accomplish during today's discussions. My job is to improve the conditions of places like these. Mr. President, I have been brainstorming a little something. The Grooney Rural Investment Plan. I reckon it's got the potential to breathe new life into our rural communities out in Grooney. We could consider a few things. For starters, we could give the farming businesses a boost with some subsidies, or we could steer towards modernising existing farms with machinery and tech. Or here's another thought. We could pour resources into developing crop breeds tailor-made for Grooney conditions. If it works out, we could roll this out across Swordsland. Kept talking as he guided me into the Gaston building. Mr. President, I get the appeal of the Greens bill been making the rounds in the Assembly. But I'm telling you, if you put the brakes on that and funnel those funds into the Grenadier plan instead, make some real strides without spooking any potential investors. Of course, Gus. That's all I'm asking for, Mr. President. Just give this plan a fair shake. Gus was interrupted by a noise coming from outside the building. We looked through our nearest window. A sleek helicopter was cutting through the sky, sunlight glinting off its polished surface as it descended toward. On it was our next appointment, El Waldo Alfonso. Quite the show of power, he doesn't do things by halves. Yes, he's always had a flair for the grandiose. Before we meet him, I want to bring up one more piece of Assembly business. This workers' rights bill. Look, I'm all for giving hard-working folks what they deserve, but isn't it a bit hasty to push this while we're still stuck in a recession? The way I see it, short-term wins might end up costing big-term in the long run. Got a point, Gus. We've got to play this smart. Mr. President, I'm glad you're thinking about the big picture. We've got to strike a balance to protect our economy and our workers. Timing and approach are everything. Please come this way. Wald and I have some exciting news to share with you. I have faith that you won't leave us hanging. I'm flattered, Mr. President. I'm glad that you made the right choice, of course. I'm glad you contacted Underhill, by the way. You won't be disappointed. The option we need safe bets. It doesn't hurt that we're pals with the guy that run the business. You know, it was recommended by our rich friends, and we were more than happy. It's a pity you only had 3 choices, to be honest. Too few large corporations own too much power. Market economies won't succeed with monopolies. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the elevator. Open the door, we walked down yet another hallway, seemingly in the direction we just come from. Like a maze, isn't it? That's quinile architecture for you. The hallways were lined with doors, glass panels, and busy suits and ties, many of foreign origin, busy in their pristine offices. Stark contrast to the blue-collar workers outside working in machinery, transportation, and maintenance. Okay, why are there so many foreigners? Bloody foreigners. Apparently. That's what I've arbitrarily decided I stand for now. Why are there so many foreigners, Gus? The best talent in Swordsland was snatched by the SSC in the 1930s. Most other corporations couldn't contend, so they had to look elsewhere. Ah, here's the elevator. A wall ought to be up there already. There's a separate entrance by the helipad. The elevator Gus pushed forward and we began our ascent. Just remember, past is past. We've got to look to the future. Open. Here we are. Bewald, my friend. Bewald the Funsel stood up from his chair. He had on a perfectly tailored suit and then he wore casually his pajamas. Gus, you old devil! Takes one to know one. As promised, I brought our guest of honor. President Rain, I hope you enjoyed seeing our facilities here. Yeah, let's not, start by saying, yeah, things look good here, but what about the poor folk outside? That just piss him off. Tell them it's a nice building. Fuck, what voice was that in? It's fine. Nothing compared to the gas on HQ in Hullsort, of course. That definitely wasn't the voice. Still one of the standouts of the Maroon District. Please, have a seat, let's talk! Sat down, some snacks and drinks were served, multiple gas on year financial reports were scattered on the table between us. Before we move on, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. The events that preceded the 53 election. You mean where I stabbed you in the back? I never would have imagined you capable of such a betrayal, especially after you provided such invaluable support during my party leadership contest against Sol. Did the road to power blind you? I don't actually want to say, you know how the game's played. This isn't a game, it's something fruitful. If something fruitful is to come out of our talks today, we need to establish trust. I'm an optimist, you know. I came here today despite everything because I believe we can still find some common ground. Let's just say things that rhyme with what this man wants to hear. We can't afford despair either, can we? Let's keep our heads up and our eyes forward. Also took a sip of coffee before continuing. Have I told you about how I became involved with Gasol? It was all because I seized an opportunity. I bought the shares being sold by the Contan partners and secured a significant stake. The move wasn't just about financial gain or personal ambition. After acquiring the shares, I was elected CEO. The company expanded, hired world-class engineers from all over the world, turned the small town of Norbel into a thriving city. Despite criticism for the Natural Preservation Foundation, I filled most of the gas needs of Swordsland and increased our energy independence, all while aligning with Tarquin Sol's all-Tark strategy. That's the essence of opportunity. What matters is that you seize it when it appears. And remember, it's not just about taking that leap, but about what you do once you've landed. An inspiring story, President. Seems we are at a crossroads with Gasson. The numbers tell a tale of struggle and potential. No need to sugarcoat it, Gus. Gasson is teetering on the edge of a cliff. That significant restructuring, the firm risks plunging into insurmountable debt. My old friend DeWald reached out to me for assistance. Out of respect for our shared history and my small stake in the company, I couldn't refuse. I've always believed in the power of networking. I'm sure you've heard of Rusty Montanaro, Chairman and CEO of Rizan Royal Gold. Rusty and I go way back, and he's done quite well for himself. Back under Alfonso's government, I was able to broker a deal with King Ramos Tora, thanks to my connection with Rusty. It was a win for all involved. Yeah, you got some powerful alliances formed. It was quite a feat, and not one without risk. The potential rewards for Swordsland, I believe, are worth it. Thanks to Gus, Ryzen's connections, investors from the kingdom are now interested in Gasol, development that could steer us clear of the looming crisis. We've got an amazing opportunity here. The demand of our gas is steadily increasing from both international partners and the Swordish state. All we have to do is ensure a consistent supply. The trouble is that right now some of our fields are operating at only half of their capacity due to resource limitations. We have significant potential for expansion, including 2 new fields that haven't even been tapped. With the right amount of investment, we can expand resource extraction, effectively fulfilling rising demands and ensuring long-term stability and profitability. That requires us to be willing to take risks and weather the storm. Now that's the legacy worth striving for, wouldn't you agree? I mean, he's saying good things. I don't agree. Yes. Tell me about the potential returns. With proper investment and development, we project extremely high returns in the first 5 years alone. Sound of sirens briefly distracted us. Through the window, we saw police cars driving down the street adjacent to the Gasson zone. We directed our attention to the Mr. President, I believe that we have the potential for a mutually beneficial partnership. However, we need to align our objectives and expectations. You know, Mr. President, if we can get the government in on this, it's a win-win.
Not only does Gasom continue to operate and grow, but it also strengthens the state's energy security, economic power. We just need a little risk appetite, that's all.
Are you ready, Mr. President, to take one of the risks that comes with ensuring one of Sworthland's most viable energy companies continues to operate and grow? Are you ready to make the government stronger? Yes, what kind of risk can you provide that this will pay off in the long term, Alfonso? Mr. President, in this business there are no guarantees, but I can assure you that we at Gasso are committed to doing everything in our power to ensure this deal pays off for Swordland.
I can't give you a guarantee, but I can tell you that I trust President Alfonso. I believe in this deal. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith.
Mr. President, have you ever considered that there's a future of Swordland that might rest on... Mr. President, have you ever considered that the future of Swordland might rest not on avoiding risk, but about embracing them? That's our greatest potential might lie not in the safety of what we know, but in the uncertainty of what we might discover. Alright, I'll go along with this. I'm clearly being fleeced here, but... If the Swordish government choose to invest, it would gain a voice in the broader company decisions. Even as a minority stakeholder, he's not wrong. The government could either liquidate its shares at a future date or continue to reap the long-term profits.
A beneficial arrangement for all parties.
He's not wrong. Wald walked back over to the window. He stood there, silhouetted against the gas field. For a moment, he turned back to face us. His gaze was steady, the expectation was clear in his eyes. The time had come to me. Well, Mr. President, will Gassov and Swordland make history or not? I mean, I don't have minuses. Can I go into the minuses? We'll co-invest. A joint investment? A wise choice. It ensures steady funds for Gassov.
I like the way you think, Mr. President. Sharing the cost with Ryza reduces our risks and strengthens our ties. It's a smart move. Before we get started with the celebrations, I did schedule time during this meeting for President Rain to raise any concerns he has about Gassel's treatment of workers and its impact on the city of Norbel.
Console nodded and turned to me. Very well. Mr. President, go ahead. Yeah, just increase the wages. President Rain, the welfare of our workers is certainly important. We'll continue to review their conditions and remunerations. We understand the importance of fair compensation. Discussions are ongoing on how best to support our hardworking employees.
Both of you make good points. It's a fine line between fulfilling our responsibilities and ensuring economic stability.
It is, we got to balance the economy with people's needs. As I mentioned before, we're always considering how we can. Suddenly the meeting was interrupted. The quiet murmur of a conversation from outside the room grew louder, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. A member of the private security team entered the room. They talked with urgency. He approached Alfonso and leaned in to whisper something in his ear. Evold nodded solemnly, his gaze meeting mine with serious intensity. Gentlemen, it seems we have an unexpected situation outside. Some protesters from the Labour Union have blocked the main vehicular exits. Katharina Horton and Dennis Sala seem to be leading the group. Difficult to leave the way we came without causing trouble.
Well, that's a pickle. What's our move, Elwald?
I have a helicopter ready. We can leave undetected and avoid the chaos and potential danger. Yeah, fuck it. Let's get the chopper. I will give the order to ready it. You can fly to the Blue Mansion in Lackhaven. Fucking brilliant. Love that plan. Get out of the shitty Blackwater. Piss off to a mansion somewhere else.
Mr. President, I advise you to leave via helicopter just in case. I can stay back and update the crowd on discussions today.
Serge Walkner rushed in. Right, what voice do we do? Mr. President! Oh, bloody hell. What voice do I do for Serge? Mr. President? No. I tried to do a Cockney one, but it never quite works. Mr. President,
I've discussed the situation with the Presidential Guard and the police security. They are advising us not to go out the way we came in. More police are on the way. He's just going to have to deal with this voice. You must make a decision, Mr. President. Everyone waited to set sides of the ring stood in stark contrast to the buzz of ever-growing crowd outside. We got a helicopter. We're buggering off in our helicopter. It's fine. Okay, so they're all very on board with that. That's good to know. British Freedom Front under the new leadership. Okay, so terrorists be terrorizing. Gone. What's this? Decide on how to leave Gassan facility. Flying the always the helicopter. It's never not the helicopter game. Like this. The low rumble of the helicopter's engines reverberated through the cabin as we soared over the vast expanse of Nargis. Patchwork of verdant fields, sprawling forests, and untouched land stretched out beneath us. The further we moved from the mountains, the more rural the landscape became. Small clusters of wooden houses and farmers' huts began to appear, the rustic charm a stark contrast to the grey concrete and marble. Alonso had been quiet for most of the journey, but as we neared Lackhaven, he finally broke his silence. That was quite an unexpected twist back there, Mr. President. I hope to celebrate our deal with a drink, not a protest. It seems that we made the right choice. Your driver did a terrific job escorting us out of there. The Gasson security and local police had been warned about potential armed gangs activity in the area. It was best not to take any chances. I'd always rely on Surge to get me out of a dangerous situation. That's what we're here for, Mr. President. Sir Alfonso, I was trained by Numan Ferver, your former driver. He spoke often of his time serving you. Ah, Numan, what a man! He used to tell us the most outrageous stories to keep us entertained during long journeys. Once he convinced the junior aide, the presidential limo was haunted. The poor lad didn't set foot in it for a week. Guess who's that you ever took out to follow? Indeed, Mr. President. Numan was quite a character. I do my best to save you in my own way. Surge gets whatever accent he gets. Like I don't think there's been even in episodes the accent's been wildly inconsistent. Not just this one. And you're doing it very well from the looks of it. Turned our attention to the scenery below us. Surge gaze traced the path of the still in progress L1 railway. The ribbons of steel gleaming bright in the sun. What a marvel, Mr. President. I can't wait for the new railway to transform transportation in Swordland. Seeing it from above is like witnessing history in the making. An ambitious project, to be sure, but you'll need to ensure it doesn't become a white elephant. It's a fine line you're treading. Ambitious but grand change often requires bold decisions. Revolutionary vision from a visionary president. My apologies, gentlemen. I didn't mean to dominate the conversation. No need to apologise, Serge. I appreciate that, Mr. President. Swordland's always been my great love. We're approximately 25 minutes away from the Blue Mansion State Building, Mr. President. Look quickly out the window at the limited escape of Blackhaven. Enlarging, sea was visible in the distance. Blue surface dotted with cargo ships. Here it was even more evident what a pivotal role the city of Blackhaven played in our international trade. Here, at the so-called Gateway, where the Swordland opened itself up to the global market. So you like Hull Sword, is it? But lost in thought for a moment, then he continued. I do miss the capital sometimes. I still remember arriving there, fresh from Arcasia, brimming with enthusiasm and ideals. As an engineer, my focus was always on energy infrastructure, also. We had many blackouts back then. It was a challenging time. The aftermath of the Civil War was still evident everywhere. Seems like when time in Hull Sword, how did it feel to be part of trans? Truly incredible experience, Mr. President. Despite the challenges and hardships, a sense of purpose, collective will to rebuild and reforge ahead. Back in those days, there was a sense that anything was truly possible. Need to retreat into his memories for a moment. A gust of wind rattled the helicopter as he. I think it was the feeling that led me to enter politics here in the 40s. I could tell the country was stagnating, and I used my knowledge of free market reforms to garner support within the USP. Even after winning the party's leadership against Seoul, my time in office was a continuous struggle to dismantle the old USP structures and bring about prosperity. It wasn't easy. The USP had a certain way of doing things, and quite a few members saw my reforms as a threat. But I believed in what I was doing, and I was persistent. Eventually, I managed to win over the numbers of supporters I needed to overhaul the system. As part of that campaign, I appreciate your support, Mr. President. Reassuring to know that there are others who share my dream of a prosperous swordland. Yeah, let's butter him up, because we don't like the old guard. The resistance from the old guard certainly worsened the situation, Mr. President. If the necessary reforms had been implemented in a timely manner, we might have been able to avert the severity of the recession. I'm still mulling over the implications of your investment decisions, by the way. I'm sure that you will agree it's important to maintain autonomy even while co-investing with Riser. Yeah, we don't want to compromise our sovereignty. Exactly, Mr. President. Maintaining control is crucial, even as we build stronger alliances. We'll sit there on his notepad and pass it to one. Helicopter. As for Gasow itself, we need to focus on maintaining our current bottom line rather than stretching ourselves thin. Our company will do its best with the means it has. As long as Gaslam's doing well, I'm not concerned about how you choose to distribute your resources. I appreciate your trust in Gaslam's management. We were hovering over Lockhaven now, the entire city was visible below us. Activity concentrated on its bustling ports. I gaze over the harbour, teeming with ships and distinctive buildings downtown, their Lesbian-style architecture, skyline a flavour unlike anywhere else in Swordland. Vulcan Avenue stretched directly beneath us, a grand boulevard lined with palm trees and decorated with sculptures. From this site, landmarks like the Iveria Gallery of Art, the Marine Theatre, and the Lockhaven Opera House were discernible. We began our descent towards the Blue Mansion, Avanzar shifted the conversation. One last thing before we land. I've been hearing noises about your administration's making changes to the Energy Protection Act. You might remember that I struggled to repeal it during my term, and that said struggle was in vain. The Energy Protection Act of 1932 remains in force, and the restrictions on foreign ownership of energy companies still persists. The vote was 179 against repeal to 71 in favour. The status quo prevailed, and it has to this day. Yep, we need to liberalise. I agree. Clear you'll need a different approach to win over the majority. President, the strategic partnership with Riser and Gasson is a promising step forward. It allows us to spread the internal risks. It invites additional interests. Their 15% stake is a fair deal, but I believe we could attract even larger international investment if the EPA is removed. Imagine the potential if Rumberg joined in. Of course, they'd be a controversial partner, but as long as they hold a minority stake, we shouldn't face any significant issues. Quinal is also showing interest, by the way. It is a bold move. In my experience, fortune favours the bold. We're not only securing Gason's future, but also placing Swordsland on the global energy map. Don't forget that Riser holds only a minority stake, and we still have control over Gason. were Rumberg to get involved, they would be limited to a minority stake as well. I don't think it would pose a problem. Yeah, the public might not sit well like it. Public opinion is a vital factor, Mr. President. However, in my experience, people often resist change initially. Once they see the economic benefits, they usually come around. We have to be transparent and communicate our intentions clearly. Suddenly, the former president's attention shifted as the pilot announced our landings over the intercom. That'll be it then, Mr. President. I urge you to remain seated. These landings can be bumpy. Thank you again for your assistance with the helicopter, Mr. Alfonso. Thank you for your fine company, Mr. Walkner. The helicopter gradually reduced speed, hovering for a moment before softly touching down on the helipad. It was a pleasure discussing these matters with you, Mr. President. It's not easy to run a country while preserving one's legacy. I trust that you will take our conversation to heart as you steer Swordland into the future. We will be in touch. Ground crew of the Presidential Guard hurried to secure the landing site as Serge and I depart. Glancing back, I caught a final glimpse of Alfonso inside the helicopter. A mutual nod of acknowledgement passed between us. Sudden rush of air and sound, the helicopter lifted off, headed towards the Gaslam headquarters in the heart of Haven. I watched as it dissipated into the cityscape, swallowed by the luminous glow of Lockhaven skylines. Alright. Stop the operations. Okay, that is a part, I think. I think that's us. Yep. The hour mark. So yeah, easing our way back in. And we've made some great strides in the energy sector there. The former president that we stabbed in the back to become president doesn't seem to bear a grudge. And we're making good energy reforms. Economy, I think. We'll see how it all plays out though. We'll have to wait till later on, until the next part. Well, probably the next part, because you make a lot of decisions and then don't actually. You see where they end up in the following chapters. But I'll see you on the next one.